Welcome back to Magic Hour Podcast, my love. Taylor Page here.
And I'm Claire. Thank you all so much for joining us.
I'm so excited to get into this conversation with Tiffany today. She is somebody, I can't remember how I originally found her, but I had a reading with her in 2023. We talk about that a little bit on the podcast, and we just really it's so rare, but we vibed. And then she was telling me, like, whoa, as I'm talking to your mom, she's really talking about how psychic and intuitive you are. Like, will you give me a reading? And then we traded and I gave her a reading. And then we've just stayed in touch, and it's been like a really beautiful relationship.
That's so cool. I love that you have found someone like that you found so many people like that, but I love hearing about when you connect to someone else who's also intuitive and the way that you guys can learn from each other and share with each other. Like it's just so powerful.
Yeah. And I find that the most tapped in evidential people on this path are the least competitive, and they're not gatekeeping. Like they recognize that there's such a need and a demand for developed evidential people in this space that are ethical and grounded and really tapped in. That like all of the most talented psychics and mediums and intuitives and astrologers, they're here for collaboration. They're kind. It really is true. Like my mom used to say this, the top has a lot of space. It's the bottom that's crowded. And I feel like that really is a reflection of just being so supportive of each other when you feel confident and regulated and grounded in your own connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like the people who are really tapped in and really grounded in their practice also know that, like, while it's an amazing experience for them, they are offering a gift to the world. They're offering like a really needed energy. And that is kind of the fuel that lights you all up. I even feel like that as a creative and an actor, like it's a very selfish pursuit for me in many ways because I feel so alive when I'm performing and so lit up, and it brings me so much joy. But I also always try and connect into that, like, I feel that this is my gift that I want to share with the world, that I've been put on this earth to share, and that I can positively affect the world. And I think that can really take you out of your ego in it and really center you in that, like, you're offering a service that's so needed. And what an honor to be able to do that and share your gift with the world.
Yeah. And when you meet someone else who's on that same frequency, it's like exciting. And what can we create together? And what can we do? And I just think that is so beautiful. And speaking of mediumship, it's been really cool to be on my own development journey. And this interview with Tiff really had me reflecting, which is very relevant for our Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius right now, like reflecting on my spiritual path and my spiritual journey. I was just thinking back to where I was with my mediumship development at that time. Like my mom was telling Tiff in the reading, Taylor should be doing mediumship readings. And that was before I was doing mediumship. It was like earlier on in 2023. And then I went to AFC in September of 2023. So it was like when I was on the precipice of like, should I go to AFC? Should I plan this trip? Should I really do it? Like all of this fear. And Tiff was definitely like a big part on my path. I felt really validated by that, and also just internally knew that I was supposed to do it, but it's also nice to have that reflected to you. And so I've been reflecting on, I have a new mediumship mentor, and I think it's nice to work with a lot of different mediumship mentors and intuitive mentors along the path because, as Tiff and I talk about in this episode, we're also different in how we get things, and you can learn different layers to your practice from different teachers. My first mediumship mentor, Dana, has been like so incredible. And I've been learning from a new mediumship mentor named Deborah. And she is just so awesome and is teaching me just a new layer and texture to what Dana taught me. I've been really working on keeping my eyes open. And it's really interesting because what Deborah says is like when your eyes are open, you get a completely different experience of the information. Like your psychic senses have to heighten so much to be experienced because you're taking in so much information with your eyes just being open, like for your brain. Everything is more vivid when you work with your eyes open. And if you notice, like the best, in my opinion, evidential mediums work with their eyes open for most of it. And it also is good because when you close your eyes, you kind of go into your own world and it can make the sitter feel more disconnected from you. And so it's not like the biggest deal. And I do mostly work with my eyes closed, but I'm practicing working with my eyes open. And so it's been really cool to just be thrown into the deep end with Deborah. And she's like, okay, eyes open, like, let's do it. There's no kind of like gradual swim. Like when I get into a swimming pool, I go on the ladder. I'm clinging onto the ladder for dear life. I'm putting one toe in, going up to my calf. Woo. And then I slowly go in, and there's none of that. It's like straight into the deep end. And it's really cool too because we've really been working on details. And I was connecting with her uncle in the spirit world with my eyes open. And I kept seeing this gold pocket watch. And I would usually just end it there. Like, there's a gold pocket watch. And I feel like that'd be significant to him. But she's like, no, what time is on the pocket watch? And I was like, it's 3 o'clock, but then it's going to 6 o'clock. And she was like, he had his heart attack at 3 o'clock, and by 6 o'clock, he passed. And she's like, keep going deeper, keep zooming in, say all the details. And it's just been so cool because even a part of being coached by her makes me feel really grateful for how far I've come, because I actually was in her class in week 2 of AFC, and I was so COVID ridden and exhausted and a shell. And I remember I was connecting in that class to somebody who was the like nanny and caretaker to the sitter. And I just remember feeling all this arthritis in my body. And it was so novel to me at the time because I was just starting out. And I was like, wow, I really feel like I have arthritis and I can't even move my arms past a certain point. And to me now, it's like, yeah, that's like run of the mill. I feel things in my body all the time. That is how they felt. But like back then, I was like, wow, it was so distinct that it wasn't me. It was like feeling the experience of someone else. And Deborah came up to me and she started coaching me in that moment. She's like, okay, like, what's the relationship? What's this? And I completely got in my head, closed up, lost the connection, and like couldn't say anything. And then I felt really bad about it at the time. And now I'm like, okay, I have your uncle here and he's showing me this, he's showing me that. And she's coaching me, like, what are his hobbies? What did he like to do? And I feel like it's been a testament of my development that I don't get in my head. I'm like lightly aware of her question, but at the same time, communicating with him. And that's an important muscle that I don't think is spoken about in intuitive development a lot. It's that you kind of have to be able to have two conversations at once and only really be prioritizing one of them, but lightly aware of the other one. And so it wasn't even about like the little details or the accuracy that impressed me about how far I've come. It's my ability to like hear what she's saying, but stay connected to the person and not drop the link. That was such a stark contrast to where I was in 2023.
Wow, that seems really hard. And to do it with your eyes open. It's just been so amazing to get to like be a bystander and cheerleader of your journey with all of this. And something that's been so prominent and distinct and inspiring about it is how continuously you thirst to improve, get more knowledge, practice, expand. Like, I'm sure a lot of us listening are like, wow, Taylor can do all these amazing things. Like, she's doing it. But you don't stop with that. Like, you're still always so hungry for knowledge and always wanting to like learn more, try new things, expand. And it just, is so amazing and has been really cool to watch you become an even more amazing intuitive and medium. Like, I remember when you were first talking about doing this, and now hearing that you're doing it with your eyes open and hearing about, the experience you had this week with the girls doing platform mediumship. Like, it's just so cool. I'm so impressed and inspired. And it's just really amazing to hear you speak about it and all the ways that you've been able to expand into an even deeper, fuller experience. And like, who knows in a year where you're going to be and what it's going to be like. It's just so cool.
Thank you so much. That really means the world to me. And like having you as my dear, dear friend that has been here since the very beginning is like such a big part of it. And it's funny because somebody on Spotify was like, I don't get it. Like, is Claire not a co host? I was like, Claire is basically a co-host of the solo episodes, but like she's just my wise friend that has so much of her own wisdom to share that I literally wanted to do this with because you've been with me since the very beginning. And like, I don't know, there's just such a like soul bond between the two of us. And I really just appreciate that. And I was actually telling the girls that too after I platformed for them. I was like, this is my platform now, but 20 years from now, when I platform for you guys, like just be ready.
Oh my God, you're gonna be like floating off the ground. Who knows? But yeah, it's like I'm so excited to see where it's gonna continue to go and just so honored that I've gotten to be. I mean, what a beautiful side part of our friendship. Like our friendship is so amazing as it is, but I've gotten to witness your journey and be a part of it and help and support. It's just like such a gift to get to do that for someone you love and so amazing to watch like what's unfolded. Like, whoa.
Thank you. I think that I just have the bug. Like sometimes you just get the bug for what you really love and like you can't get enough of it. And I really got the mediumship bug. Like I just constantly want to develop and be a better tool for the spirit world and help the sitters more and I just really recognize the demand for it. And that's why I'm so excited to keep developing platform and Tiffany who we have on today is like an amazing platform medium. That's like the bulk of what she does is like gallery readings for a lot of people at once. So we talk about that a little bit and how it's different than one-on-one readings in the episode. And it's also exciting and definitely mediums like Tiff inspire me too. And yeah, it's just such a beautiful world. And like I was saying before, I've said this, I quote Jen Weigel when she said, if there can be a CVS and a Rite Aid on every corner, why is there not enough business for a psychic medium on every corner too? Like the world literally needs it.
Yes, that's so true. Never discount that what you're passionate about is needed. The world needs your magic, and what you're called to, I feel like, has been divinely put inside of you. So, answer the call and see where it takes you.
1,000,000%. So, without further ado, throughout the years, Tiffany Rice has always had a sense of knowing. Upon becoming a Reiki master, Tiffany became aware of her senses and abilities increasing with each life event. Being able to identify with her fellow colleagues, she realized her gift of being a medium was accelerating rapidly. The pieces of the puzzle were finally starting to fit. Tiffany is now a renowned spirit medium. She dedicates her life sharing her uplifting and enlightening gift to those that are going through the stages of grief. She also has interest in the paranormal and knows that the paranormal is an extension of the spirit world. Spirit at times will have an uncanny connection to certain locations where Tiffany is able to connect to the emotional side to the factual side, helping historical societies and special residential locations. In her downtime, Tiffany spends time with her family. Being adopted, she has a large family base that supports her. Along with family time, her friends, aka Tiff's team, play a huge role to keep her grounded. Traveling and exploring locations and new places is what brings her peace to her active lifestyle. At home in the suburbs outside of Boston, she is a happy mother of three fur babies, Chloe, Olive, and Stanley. If you would like to follow Tiffany on social media, we will link them below. And she wants you to know to be careful because there are a lot of fake accounts pretending to be her, which keep in mind for every single guest that we have because it's such an annoying situation. So without further ado, welcome, welcome, Tiffany. Tiffany, welcome to Magic Hour.
Hi. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm so excited too. And so Tiff and I were in Mercury retrograde hell trying to get on this call together. And I'm so happy that we're here now.
Yes. I'm so happy. I was so nervous. I was thinking to myself, is this even going to happen? Because I'm definitely technically challenged. It's not something that comes easy. I don't even do Zoom readings. That's how bad I am. Yeah.
I think a lot of us who are like kind of naturally connected to the spirit world can sometimes struggle with the technological world because I really relate to that. And just a little anecdote. So I had a reading with Tiff. I want to say it was back in 2023. Do you remember?
It was. I actually just checked this morning when you texted me and I scrolled back. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was 2023. Yes.
So this was like very early on in my own mediumship development journey because up until that point, I was just doing angel readings. And then, like, spirit people started coming into my sessions and I didn't know what to do with it. So I connected with Tiff. She immediately connected to my mom and just was like so spot on about everything, of course. And then she also connected with, this is a really funny story. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but you connected with my husband's dad, who had also just passed. And you were saying that he was happy that Ari was eating steak, my husband. And I remember at the time being like, I can't take that. Like, I don't understand what it means. And we were like, okay, let's just keep moving on. But everything was like so spot on that I'm sure it was connected some way. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm going to take that and we'll see where that connects later. So I was telling my husband about the reading and how his dad came in and all of these things. And so at the time, I've been vegan for 17 years, and my husband was like trying to be vegan for a year and just absolutely hating it. It did not work for his blood type. It was not working for him. And he secretly had a steak like a week before or something like that. And he was like, at that time, he felt like he didn't want to like let me down or hurt my feelings, which like I could care less. And I literally like, I'll cook meat for him. Like I understand that not everybody's body type can sustainably be vegan. And I just am very ethical about the conscious meat that I make him. And so you saying like his dad is happy that he's eating steak again, like basically his dad told on him from the spirit world. And I found out that way that he wasn't being vegan with me anymore. And that was so funny.
Spirit doesn't hide anything. That's what I'll always say. I feel like I've ruined so many surprise birthday parties or pregnancies, engagement. Quick, funny story. I was in Philadelphia doing a gallery reading, and I was bringing up, oh, who's getting engaged? There's an engagement happening. Like I see it. And there was a couple there, and the guy was kind of like, oh, I'm not sure. I don't know. She goes to the bathroom and he goes, I'm going to propose to her. And I said, wait, are you going to propose to her now? And he goes, I have the ring. I'm going to propose to her. And so it was my first and only yet, you never know what the future holds, but it was my first and only engagement during a gallery reading.
Oh, that's so special. And it's actually funny because my husband could not hide the engagement from me when he proposed, because I also was told in meditation to like prepare because he was proposing on the trip we were going to. So I was like, okay, that's being married to a medium for you. And so another really like powerful part of that first reading we had together was you were like, whoa, I'm connecting with your mom and I feel like your mediumship abilities. And you were so like encouraging to me. And you're like, I kind of want to get a reading from you. So then we traded readings and I gave you a reading. And then it was really cool to give you a reading because I could sense your energy and feel just how connected you are. Like it was like this like blue lightning bolt when I connected to you. It was really powerful.
We have to do that again too, by the way.
I would love that.
I will take all the readings and I could use one.
Yeah. And so, okay, I feel like I got ahead of myself because I was really excited to tell that story. But we always start the podcast by asking, what is your big three, your sun, moon, and rising?
Okay. Well, I am an Aries and then a double Virgo. So I'm a Aries sun and then Virgo.
Yes, I love that. And you know what? Scorpios gel with Virgos on a deep level. Virgo women. I'm not so sure about Virgo men. Just kidding. But Virgo women and Virgo, like a lot of my friends are double Virgos, and I'm an Aries rising. The second, and that actually means your moon is in the first house, and the moon is like intuition, that kind of like mysticism, and you lead with it. You show up in the world with that, with the moon in the first house. So that's really beautiful. The second question that I like to ask everybody, which I know that this is going to be an interesting one for you because you are a full-time evidential medium, but how does your intuition speak to you?
When I give readings to someone or for myself?
Let's actually talk about for yourself, because I think that's what will help the community the most.
So I go with my very first thought, and I go with what resonates with me. The one thing that I will say when you do or you trust your intuition, I can trust my intuition when it comes to other people. But sometimes for myself, if I'm looking for clarity, I have a little problem with ego. Sometimes my ego gets in the way. So that's where I have to feel like I have to phone a friend. But, one good thing that I'll always say is a friend of mine taught me this, and I go by it, is I always place my hand on my stomach and I will say, where you want to start off first is I'll say, hi, my name is Tiffany Rice. And I go with how I feel, right? And you can do that. Why don't you try this to see how you feel right now? So
Okay.
like obviously say, hi, my name is Taylor Page. And you can say it in your mind. You don't have to speak it out loud.
Okay. I'll speak it out loud since I have my microphone right here. Hi, my name is Taylor Page.
Okay. Now say, hi, my name is Tiffany Rice.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Rice.
Do you feel it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little off.
It's like when you wear a borrowed piece of clothing from a friend and it doesn't feel like yours, you know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So when I'm trying to go on my intuition, I catch my ego getting in the way, which we're human, we all have an ego. That's when I'll resort to the stomach and I'll say, okay, is this a good decision for me? Do I see myself in Hawaii or Aruba? Like I can ask like certain questions like that. That's how I'll get the response.
I love that. It's kind of like feeling what a full body yes feels like. And immediately when you speak something out loud that isn't truth, you can feel how that's off. And so, like, self divination is so much harder than reading for other people, in my opinion. And that's why I'm so happy that you brought that up because people see people like us doing this work full time and just think we know everything and we're so tapped in. But when it comes to ourself, it can be really difficult because there's attachment to outcomes and,
Yes.
hard truths we don't want to look at sometimes. So I love how you said that.
Thank you. And that's the thing is like a lot of people, I don't think they realize like when we do readings, we're letting spirit guide us or we don't have an ego. We don't have stake in it, right? No pun intended from what we just talked about. But we don't have our ego involved when we're giving the readings. We just give that type of information. We let spirit control it. We hear from energy and so forth, loved ones and spirit. But when we focus in on ourselves, there is that little dose of ego.
It's so true. Like, we filter the information through everything we know about our story of self, which clouds it and gets us in our mind and out of our heart. Whereas when it's people we have no filters on for because we don't know them, we can just get pure information.
Right. And it's so easy to overthink things. I was giving a reading once. It was one of the first readings I gave, and I was bringing someone's grandmother through. And during the reading, it was during lunchtime, and during the reading, I could smell brownies. And I'm like, all right, is this my ADD kicking in? And then I was like, well, I am kind of hungry. And this is all going on as I'm giving, like, this is my second voice being like, you're hungry, eat lunch soon, or whatever. And so I didn't say anything during the reading about the brownie smell, like smell the brownies. I could taste the brownies. I didn't say anything about it. And so after the reading, I said, how do you feel about your reading? And she goes, well, I have to say, I'm so surprised my grandmother didn't bring up her brownies. That's what she was known for. And I said, oh my gosh. I go, no, I was smelling the brownies. I could taste the brownies, but I thought it was me. So it's like my ego got in the way from giving her that major piece of validation. So now with my readings, I just learn like, don't overthink it. Just say it. If you're getting 20 names in a reading, then give all 20. Don't think, oh, I'm giving too many names, And I'm saying this because there were moments in the beginning of my journey of being a medium, I would be nervous, like, oh my gosh, I just feel like she's probably thinking that I'm throwing out so many names. So like the ego really can limit us from giving a full message. So we just have to be mindful enough and understand that the reading is not about us at all. It has nothing to do with us. So take our thoughts and opinions out of it. I feel like you should proceed to give a reading using bedside manner because of the environment of the reading and what we're giving. So I think it's appropriate to have bedside manner during a reading, but spirit's going to give you everything that you need to know, not what you want, but what you need.
I could not agree more. And I think the more you develop in this space, it's like not that that little ego voice goes away, which is so true. The ego voice is like, am I doing a good job? Do they think this is a good reading? What are their reactions going to be about this? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Did I make this up? It's like that little chatter. And I feel like as you develop, it's not that that goes away, but it's almost like you become a master at ignoring it and staying connected to the flow of sensory information. And I think that that's like one of the most important parts of intuitive development is almost learning to have two conversations at once, where like you are so in flow, and even what the sitter's saying, what's happening in the room, what your ego's saying, it's like you're aware of that, but you've learned to like not care about it or prioritize it at all so that you can stay in the flow of what's actually coming through.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you used the term flow, because that's exactly what it is. It's a flow of energy. And it's almost like a little bit of an ADD conversation too.
And you know what? I think that I'm on the ADD spectrum. Like I'm slowly learning that about myself. Like I if I am doing something and then I'll be like, I have to do this, and I leave it half done and then I go to this and haven't really noticed it because I've lived alone for like so long in my life. But my husband definitely is not that way. So sometimes being with another person shows you like, oh, okay, yeah, I might have a little ADD.
Yes, yes. I can relate. I definitely can relate to you on that so many times. I'm like, wait. Or now that I'm getting older, I have this like during mid sentence, I'll just stop and I'll say, wait, what was I saying? Like literally, it'll just like, oh, reboot, system reboot.
Yes. And I want to talk to you a bit about clairaudience too, because from my understanding and just what I've seen of you, I feel like clairaudience is so strong with you. You're like, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing this. And clairaudience is actually my like least frequent clair. I'm like a deep, deep feeler. Like feeling, seeing, and knowing are kind of my bread and butter. Sometimes I'll get a name, but it's almost like I feel their name or know their name instead of hearing their name, which is kind of interesting. And so I feel like I'm just like not the person to do a deep dive on clairaudience. So I am so happy to have you here for our clairaudient blossoming mediums. Can you talk about your progression with clairaudience, like how you started to recognize that it was spirit and how that continued to develop as you did?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that, because in the beginning, I didn't know I had that sense of knowing. So that's all I knew. But just like I mentioned with the brownies, I could smell the brownies, I could taste the brownies, but I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I overthought things. But it's like a muscle. We use the pineal gland, right? So like the more that we use, the more that we understand energy. It's like going to the gym. You're going to start off a little shaky and then give it a couple months with that consistency and progression of constantly utilizing those muscles, or utilizing, your senses. You're going to start building them more and more. So with the clairaudient, a lot of times I will hear them. I say with names, it's like they're driving by me going 100 miles an hour, yelling out the window. So like the name Mary, I could hear is like, Mary. And I'm like, wait, is that Mary, Maria? And so when they get a reading with me, I say, you have to be a little bit open, because their frequency is so much quicker than ours. And I try to get them to slow down. So we just got to hold on to it. And even sometimes people, if they speak a different language, even today, I said a nickname and I was like, I'm getting stew, like ST stew. And they're like, no, no. And it was somebody from Amsterdam that I was reading. And he goes, well, what about Stev? And I'm like, okay, Stu, Stev, they're like, oh, that makes sense, so we have to think a little bit outside the box, but we have to trust it. But also, what I've learned in readings is a reading is like a puzzle piece, and you don't want to do the puzzle piece for the person receiving the message, which is what we tend to do. And I've learned I have to back off. So it's like, I'm going to give you this puzzle piece, hold on to it. If it doesn't make sense, that's okay. So when we start hearing things, you don't want to bring them down so many different avenues. So you really want to be mindful. If you're getting, I'll always use like the Mary or Marie. If you're hearing the Mare, so you have to say, okay, it could just be a variation of that, but it's not going to be Patricia. Okay. So, because sometimes they'll say, well, we have a Mary, but she's connected to Patricia. Would it be Patty? And I'm like, no, that's too much.
Yeah, that's too far separated.
It's too far separated. Sometimes I'll hear songs. I'll actually hear a song that they liked, or whether it's like an artist. Like I've done that before. I'm like, I keep on hearing like Metallica, and they're like, that was the last concert we went to. So they may play something for me to hear. And even though in my mind, I'm like, why am I hearing Enter Sandman when it could, very well just be the basic of Metallica. big Metallica fan. Last concert we went to together was Metallica. You know, spirit will utilize your own personal database. So be mindful of that. I've heard Backstreet Boys songs and they're like, well, it wasn't Backstreet, but it was New Kids. And it's like, okay, so boy band, but just different time era, you know?
Yeah, we might not be on the exact same wavelength as that band or whatever, so they give us what we could get to bridge that gap sometimes.
Yes.
That makes so much sense. And so for Claireaudience, like just going back to the initial connection with it, and the song stuff is so right on. Like I always tell my mentees and the people in this community, like pay attention to songs that quote unquote randomly pop into your head. Like what's the lyric? What's the feeling? What's the mood? And just really quickly to flip that, like my clairsentience experience of getting music is I like feel the music. Like, is it happy? Is it sad? Is it slow? Is it fast? So I think that psychic information always comes with a feeling as well. And I'm just so tuned into the feeling. So it's nice to hear how the clairaudient side of that coin is. And so, how did you? Because I think so many of us get more information than we realize because we're like not paying attention to it or we don't recognize it as information. So, clairaudience can be a tricky one because it's like, what are thoughts versus clairaudience? And does clairaudience come in your own voice? And how did you detangle that?
That's a good question. Then that's when I go back with like the sense of knowing. During a reading, if I get like a song, and I love the fact that you're like, well, when I hear songs, I go with the feeling of it. You know, whoever's listening out there, keep in mind when you start learning more about your own personal mediumship, everybody's going to have different signposts. So, what makes sense to Taylor, like if you hear a song, Taylor, and you're like, oh, this is a really quick song. So, like, this means that they worked out to like fast songs. But then I could hear the same song and I could say, oh, that is another Metallica song. I wouldn't get that they worked out, but I just get that they liked Metallica, you know? So, everybody has their own signposts. So, it's really important to be aware of that. I started to, when in doubt, just started to really trust exactly what it was that I was getting and realizing, again, if I'm thinking it has to do with me, that's when my ego steps in because readings have nothing to do with me. They just may use my database, but it's not meant for me. It goes back to like just peeling back those layers and just saying, like, okay, if they're showing me this, I have my mom in spirit too. And so sometimes they may show me my mom, right? So if they show me my mom, to me, I would tell someone, okay, I'm getting a mom in spirit. Or maybe my mom's name is Judy. So maybe that there's a Judy connection, you know, so they'll use my database for me to be able to explain.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. And that's why it's so important what you said about readings are not about us at all. So if a memory connected to us comes up in our mind, it has nothing to do with us. It could be like, for example, I remember one time before a reading, I was like kind of attuning myself before I got on Zoom with the client. I was like happy and living my life and just enjoying my day. And then I just couldn't stop thinking about this one relative I have a big problem with. And I was like getting so annoyed and in that experience. And I think that's how you know it's psychic information is when there's no logical explanation for it. It's not like I just had a fight with that person and then was about to get on the call. I was like happy and doing my thing. And how you also know it's psychic information is that when you say it, it goes away. I'm like down the path long enough to know that this isn't actually about this person. It's about my sitter that has a similar dynamic in their family. And I brought it up when we got on Zoom and it's like, yeah, I'm also no contact and I had this happen and I was like, I just feel like I have to talk about this. But they were drawing on my database of emotional experiences so that I could bring up something that this sitter wasn't going to bring up, but was really struggling with. And that is a perfect example. And when you were saying too, like, they draw on our databases. I just have this image of us mediums all being paintbrushes in different color of paint and spirit painting with us in like different ways. And I love that we could be talking to the same spirit person and bring out completely different sides of their experience, who they were when they were here, because people are so multifaceted and multidimensional that like who they were in college is so different when they were a grandma. And we might bring through just like different aspects because it connects to our inner database or what our vibe is. So I think that that's just so powerful.
I love it. And, you know, there's a good friend of mine, Julie Clapp. She's another medium. Her and I will do larger gallery readings. And that's what happens is we've piggybacked where we've gotten we've connected with the sitter. We have the same person and spirit coming through, but both of us bring up different aspects of that person to the sitter. So it's like a double whammy, or they'll focus on different areas of their life, and one will suit more with what's going on with Julie's life, where one would like another piece of information would suit more with what's going on in my life.
Yes, so interesting. And also, just like a behind the scenes as a life of a medium, is that it's so magical how that happens, because what's coming through for our sitter often connects back to us and like what we're navigating in our soul lessons and all of that. So it's just so powerful. And I just want to circle back really quickly, like when you get clairaudience like names and stuff like that, does that come in your own, or how do you hear that?
I had to think about that, because a lot of times I'll hear it in my voice.
Yeah. Me too.
I hear it in my voice, because I was like, do I hear when the only time I don't is when it's like a song with a name in it or something. But in most cases it's my voice.
Yeah, me too. That's my understanding as well. And it's always been in my voice. And how I know too, when sentences come in, is that they're in second person instead of like, I'm this or I'm that. It's like, you've got this, you that. So I think that's like a good distinction too. So I wanted to ask you, because when you are an evidential medium that is truly tapped in and doing good work, everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants a reading. Everybody wants free work from you. Everybody wants you to just tell them everything and just be constantly on. And so, you in particular, and I know you're an Aries and I'm an Aries rising, and we have a lot of like go, go, go fire as Aries.
Patience, none. Yes.
Yes. And that's why we were both just Ariesing out before this call started. And there's a couple parts of this question. I first want to start with like the boundaries and how you, as an evidential medium, deal with everybody kind of either testing you or wanting more from you or asking you things. And like, what would you say? Because there's a lot of developing mediums in this community. So, how do you maintain your energy levels doing so much of this work?
Girl, I set my boundaries. I will tell you, from the beginning when I started, I remember doing house parties of 5 people, and I think I was charging like $25 a person, and I was giving half-hour readings, individual half-hour readings, and people would just want more. They would say, "Okay, I need to hear more. Can you just give me more?" Or like they'd start crying. So immediately if they started crying, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to spend more time with this person." And as much as I wanted to, I still had another group of people that needed readings, and they deserved my undivided attention. And so I would be at a house party that would normally take 2 hours maybe, and I remember leaving after 5 hours because they would "Well, just give us more." And at that 30-minute mark, they'd be like, "Oh, well, what about this person?" And then I just felt compelled, and I didn't have that boundaries because I wanted to almost feel like I needed to prove myself at that time, talking about the ego. I was like, "Well, I have to do it. I have to." Nope, you don't have to do it. You know what I'm going to tell you guys is I have no control of who comes through or what comes through. I'm not here to prove anything to you. I'm just here to tell you exactly what I'm being told. And I can guarantee you that what I'm being told is for your highest and greatest good. And it's what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And that sounds harsh, but you have to preserve your own energy, because if you are a practicing medium, I've been doing this full time for 13 years, full time, and so I do over 20 private readings a week, and then I have my gallery events at night. And so I have to be really on and know how to preserve my energy, because if I'm going to put myself out there, I'm going to give myself top-notch quality. I'm going to give everybody top-notch quality because that's what they deserve. It's just really, really important that I take a step back and say no, set the timer, make sure I do. If it's a 30-minute reading, then we have to respectively end at 30 minutes. Or if it's an hour reading, we respectively have to end 60 minutes. You have to be able to fill your own cup and know how to fill your own cup. And that's saying no. Or just, when people are, "Well, give me more about that." And if you're not getting more about that, then you can't. And I say to people, I go, "I'm not going to make it up." Like I've had it where people have been so set on like a nickname. They'll say to me, oh, well, I'll only believe you if you tell me what the nickname was. And I used to say, oh, okay, let me see what I can do. But now I say, you know what? The other information was really validating what they needed to know. Like there was one where she was upset because I didn't give her the nickname, but I talked about how her sister helped her through her battles with cancer. And because her sister in spirit was there with her, she helped her get better. It's crazy because I feel like that was a huge message, but yet she was really super focused on, I just need to hear the nickname. So when people are sitting in front of you, I feel like it's important to let them know, okay, it's okay to think of the person that you might want to hear from, but also go easy on those expectations and open yourself up a little bit more when it comes to just like the names. If I'm saying Mary or Marie and you're like, oh, it was Miriam.
I think too, like that says more about the sitter's consciousness than the mediums when they have to be so in control of this beautiful co-creation with spirit that it can only look one way. Where are they holding the reins of control and it can only look one way outside of the reading too? And I think that mediumship development and personal development are one and the same. And like the more we can regulate our nervous system enough to be okay with disappointing people, with not taking things personally, with people thinking what they want about us, but we know we shared what was needing to come through for that. I think that is such an important part of the development journey, or else we will just like stop doing this work altogether and crumble. And it's so true. Like everybody wants more all the time. And for people in this path, you have to set those boundaries. And I so relate, Tiff, because my first reading price was 30 minutes for $30. And I would do 45 minutes every single time. I would go over every single time. I'd be so burnt out. I'd be exhausted. It's so important too, because when you also start out, people like don't respect your time as much. And you are trying to charge an ethical rate because you're just starting out. But then people see that ethical rate and just see it as like a mirror to how much you value your time. So they don't value your time. And it's just a really hard loop to get out of. And that's why it's so important to like keep that ethical price, but also have strong boundaries and know your worth. So I really loved that. And I also loved what you said about not making something up because someone's asking for it. And sometimes people do come into readings with like, I only want this thing. And sometimes we get that thing and that's awesome. And other times we get other things. But what my guide said to me is it would be as if you watch an entire movie and the person is like telling you about parts of the movie and this and that. And you're like, I only will appreciate the movie and know the movie's real if you tell me the prop from scene 3, the main prop from scene 3. It's like, well, I just told you about the theme, the characters, what it's about. Like, I don't know what the prop in scene 3 was. I'm not getting that. And so I think that that is like a good analogy. And when you also said like, and I won't make it up, one of my mentors says, mediumship without evidence is story time. And I think that that is so powerful because imagination masquerading as intuition can be such a common intuitive pitfall where when we want to be able to tell the story and the ego comes in and we get taken out of our power and on the wild ride of what our sitter's asking us to do. When we disconnect from source, we go into imagination land because the way our brain works is that it wants to answer the question that we ask. It wants us to feel safe. And we start getting all of these like stories in our head that we're mistaking as intuition. And so we want to make sure that we stay nervous system regulated enough to be in our power and in connection with spirit. And kind of what we were saying before is like muting the noise of everything else. And that's all we can do.
That's the thing is like if people realized what we're doing, that's another thing. I think when we read, sometimes it looks so effortless.
Yes.
I want to bring it back because I want to say, guys, we're really talking to spirit. And the reason why I say it is because they're like, well, can't you just do like another hour? Can't you just I hear it all. And they don't realize, yeah, it may look like it's easy for us, but it's because we've been doing it for a long time. But we still get tired and we're running on energy. It's all energy to get this type of information that we're getting and have the accuracy that we have. It takes, I feel, for most of us a little while to develop it. And it takes a lot for us to be mindful of what type of energy we need and how much energy we need. Because I can tell you, when I do a full day of readings, or if I have a gallery reading at night and it's, say, a 200-person gallery reading, I'm exhausted. I'm ravenous and I'm exhausted. I look at people and they're like, just give us more, just give us more. And they will. I think that that's why we have to be the ones to stand up for ourselves and set those boundaries, because nobody else will, because they just want. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. If I'm getting a card reading about my love life, I'm like, go on, tell me more. I want, like, who am I going to marry? What's going on? And when that time comes up, like, and I'll look at the clock, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 2 minutes left of my reading. Who is it going to be? I understand that need and that want, but it really is up to us and how important it is to be able to set that boundary, because if we don't, we're just going to get burnt out. And that is a real thing. That is a real thing.
Oh, yeah. Spiritual burnout is so real, and boundaries are so important. And the ravenous thing is so real. After my readings, I throw down. I like house everything in my kitchen. I'm starving after that.
Yes.
And you're naturally leading me to where I wanted to go next, which was like the second part of this kind of boundaries question. We are spiritual athletes. We just are. Like, we have to be in tip top shape, kind of like what you said. Just like we work our physical muscles, we're working our spiritual muscles. And as we naturally do this work, we can do more of it as time goes on, because we build our power levels. And I think when you're in the beginning of your development journey, everything takes more effort, because you're not just in the euphoria of connection to spirit, it's all the noise around it. And it's kind of like trying to push it and grasp for stuff and prove. And like all of those things are like tabs on our mental computer being open that are like draining our energy. But as you continue to like evolve and develop and trust and quiet that noise, like, you as a evidential medium throw down. Like, you do more work than like almost anyone I know. Like, you do so many readings every day, and it's your 13 years of experience just show. And then you go and you're doing a podcast with me, and then you have a gallery tonight. And I think some people must look at that and be like, what's her secret? How can she do so much? I'm so tired after just a few readings.
I'm an Aries. No.
And she's an Aries. Exactly. She's an Aries and a double Virgo. And Virgos, I'm sorry, Virgos don't stop. Virgos are always doing something, if I know something about Virgos. And so I think too, there's like that differentiation of giving your life force energy to this work by being in all of those scripts and nervous system dysregulation and ego stories. And then once you're actually just flowing with spirit, it doesn't take that much energy. It's like euphoric and joyful. It's everything around it that's exhausting.
And what? I'm going to tell you, I love it when people are open and they're quick to put their own puzzle pieces together, because those readings flow. They're like, oh, yes, I know, blah, blah, blah. It's just quick. But I think sometimes, and I try to tell people before I even start the reading, like, we're always overanalyzing everything. Spirit is always super simple. So let's just take all the information. Don't get stuck on certain things, and let's just go with it. Because then we can give you more information. When sometimes people get stuck, like I'll say, oh, I get the name Robert or Bob. And they're like, no, no, no. And it doesn't make sense. And I'll say, okay, just write it down, put a star next to it. And then they're like, well, what about Robert or Bob? And I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense to you, so we'll just leave it. And then I'll say, do you know Robert or Bob? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so if you really don't know Robert or Bob, then it could be for the reading, my next reading that I have, because sometimes that happens too. So sometimes we get stuck on the things that really don't make sense. And I'd rather just have people write it down, like in the first like 2 minutes. If it doesn't make sense, it's okay. Just write it down, but let's keep going, because there's so much more information that we need to give you.
Yeah. And sometimes those things like connect later on, or you talk to a family member and they're like, of course, his brother was Robert.
The psychic amnesia hits hard.
The psychic amnesia, which like totally valid. I always say playful curiosity is the best way to approach this work, where you're just kind of like in the moment, getting curious, staying open, and you're going to get such a better reading experience that way. And from us, from our perspective, like we so appreciate that energy, because it makes our job 10 times easier for the developing mediums and intuitives out there. sometimes you're just not sitting with a self-aware sitter, and we can't give them what they want to hear. We're just giving them what we're getting. And when they fight you every step of the way, it's an opportunity for you on your development journey to like double down on trusting yourself and being open with yourself and not letting your ego stories and your inner villain voice turn up to be like, maybe I'm not connected. Maybe this is all wrong. Maybe blah, 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 because you will be tested.
And I'll tell you that name, Robert, I did a 1-hour reading with someone and she said, I'm just interested in hearing about my dad. And I said, okay. So the only name I got that reading was Robert. And I said, okay, I'm getting the name Robert. She said, no. I said, okay, well, it could be Bob or Rob or Bobby or Robbie, nope, nope, nope. And I kept on hearing, it's Rob, it's Rob. So I said, okay, is it dad's best friend? Would it be his brother? Now I'm trying, even though I said, don't help them too much, but I was like, it's just weird. It's the only name. And she said, doesn't make sense. So I said, write it down. The next day she emailed me and she said, oh my gosh, my dad's name is Robert, but I'm just used to calling him Dad. Ha ha.
No, I'm sorry. I'm seeing red right now.
I was like, I swear I'm hearing Robert. Like I was so solid. And I'm like, again, sometimes I'll get the formal name. So maybe it's Bobby or Robbie. That's a perfect example of psychic amnesia. And it happens a lot with the names. Like I said, that same week at a gallery reading, I said, I keep getting the name Linda. Nope, nope. And it was one table of 6 girls. I'm like, Linda. And they're like, nope. But I brought through their aunt and they were so happy and everything was good. And so at the end, I said, what was your aunt's name? And they said, oh, it was Noreen. And I said, okay. And then 10 minutes later, they're like, wait, we have a question. I said, what? They said, well, her name's Noreen, but we called her Linda. Do you think that would be the Linda you said in the beginning?
My goodness. Okay. This is why I really will just like hang my hat on this premise that intuitive and mediumship development is personal development. And these kind of like challenging situations for us where we're being kind of, psychic amnesia is one thing. Sometimes we're being tested. Sometimes people are purposely trying to like throw us off to see if it's real.
Oh, they do that. Yes.
Yeah. And when these things happen, it is such an opportunity to turn down the noise outside of you and really just hone in on meeting your own need and regulating your own nervous system and trusting in yourself. And when you radiate that out, not only will you attract the clients that trust you, but it's also just going to affect every other area of your life outside of mediumship development. That like deep self trust, no matter what shadowy stuff people are doing around you.
Exactly. And like to this day, I'll get people that show up at my gallery events and they'll like take their rings off, or I love the ones that are like, I'm bringing my husband. He's so skeptic. And I'm like, leave him at home. Why don't you leave him at home? He'll be ready when he's ready. We don't need to, try to prove anything. Again, not here to prove anything. We're just here to tell you what we're being told. So the one thing that I'll say to you guys, that if you guys are just starting out in your medium life, welcome, but also don't take things personal. That's on them. It's okay to have a healthy skeptic. I believe I'm a healthy skeptic. I think we all have a little bit of that. It's smart, but there are going to be people that are going to try to throw you off or just not get it. And sometimes you're just not going to be good enough for anybody. Like I've done it before where I have said like, oh, your grandmother shows me 2 different color socks. That's your thing. That's what you used to always do. And your grandmother shows me like all this stuff. Like pretty much I'm giving you everything besides your social security number. And then they'll send me an email and say, well, I just want to say, I feel like you were grasping at some information, but I did go to another medium and they did tell me that my grandmother loved me and that's what I needed.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm like, of course, we're connected through love. It's infinite love. But, there was nothing I could do or say except saying, I should have started off and said, your grandmother's here and she loves you. But instead, I went into all different directions and I was very detailed, but it wasn't what they wanted. So we can't control.
You were following the power and following what was coming through. And that's evidential medium so that she could know without a shadow of a doubt that her grandma was really there. And then, of course, the message is, I love you. I miss you. I'm so proud of you. But without the evidence, those things are just, so Yeah, really interesting.
One other thing I want to bring up too. Well, okay, two things. Two things I'm going to bring up. One will say, "Oh, I want a mediumship reading," and I'll start in with bringing somebody through, and I'll say, "Oh, they're showing me the month of February, and this is the date," and they're like, "Nope, nope," and then they'll say, "Well, I don't know when anybody was born or married or when they passed." Like they want to hear from that person, but they don't know anything about that person. So I would say, if you're a sitter, if you're a sitter, again, it might be good to have someone in mind that you want to hear from, but also make sure you know kind of the basic stuff about them. Like if they were married, if they had kids, their name, their middle name. I know it sounds like basic information, but a lot of people are like, we'll see. So, that's one thing that I would recommend if you're receiving a reading, not you guys if you're mediums giving a reading, but if you're receiving a reading, it's nice to have a little bit of information.
And it's also okay to say, I'm not sure instead of no. I think saying like, no, no, no is a different energetic exchange with the medium than saying, I'm not sure, but I'll write that down and check on it and let you know. Like that's a completely different frequency. And that's also very fair. And on the mediumship side, what I do when that happens is I put a timer on the spirit person. If the person doesn't know anything about them, I say, okay, you have 2 minutes. Tell me everything you want to say, and I will say it. And then we're going to move on to someone that I can build the power with because they can actually give me yeses. So I think that that is like really helpful. There's so much I want to talk about with you.
I know. And like, what else do you want to talk about? It's a little bit of a venting session too.
Yes. It's like very rare for us as coworkers to get to just have like this is our talk by the water cooler, so to speak. So I wanted to ask because I am starting to do practice demonstrating. Like I'm starting to develop and get to demonstrations. I've only demonstrated 3 times. I wanted to ask how doing gallery readings for you, because one-on-one, it's like that person wants to be here most of the time and they're excited and they're open and I can connect with them in that flow of energy. Whereas in a gallery reading, like you said, there's a whole spectrum of people who were dragged there, people who are so excited and have gone to all your events. Like there's just a spectrum of people there for spirit to draw on and for you to draw on energetically. And how does that affect the work? How is that different than one-on-one sessions?
Well, I will always say whenever I connect, it still seems like I'm in the middle of New York City and everyone's talking all at once. So when I do a gallery reading, I will literally start like, okay, who wants to go? And I go with my very first feeling, or first, I'll actually get a feeling like, okay, go to the right because I feel like there's a mom in the third row that needs to come through, or go to the left. I feel, like I will actually feel it within my body. So I'll focus on where I'm being pulled to first. And then I will start to go a little bit deeper and say, okay, like in my mind, I'll say, okay, so, and I'll say it, I get a mom energy. And then in my head, I'll say, give me a name, show me something, So I'll usually get some sort of validation where I say, okay, this is this. Now, what I will tell people is when I say mom energy, I'll say, I'm saying a mom energy. So this could be a mom or a grandma, mom-in-law. I don't get like if it's an in-law, if it's a stepmom, I don't get that type of stuff. I just get that feeling of mom energy. So if it was a grandmother that raised you and she was more like a mom to you than your mom, then most likely it's your grandmother. So I will say that to people because again, people are like, I need to hear from this person and that's it. Like they're very narrow a lot of the times. And I will also say, if you're with somebody and I'm giving them a reading and they look at me like I have 5 heads, but you know what I'm trying to say to them, feel free to help them out. So if you do bring a friend or another relative, it's sometimes easier because the heat isn't on them, so they can hear it a different way. So I've done it before where I'm like, oh, and there's 3 children, you have 3 children, and people straight up have said, no, and their friend looks at them and they're like, you have 3 kids. And they're like, oh, wait, is that what you mean? Because people will tend to overthink it. And also, I will say with gallery readings, sometimes we get double connections. I could start with someone in the front row. I'm bringing a mom in spirit. She's acknowledging the month of May. She's showing me she passed from lung cancer. Like all this validation. And that could be very connected to somebody else, like on the other side of the room. So I will say it like to people, like, just hold on to it. We could have these double connections, but I want you to hold on to it. And chances are they'll end up at some point in the night, I'll make my way over there And then they'll say, when you were up front and you said that there was a mom that passed of lung cancer and her name was Mary, well, that's my mom too. So I'd say that's a double connection. So that mom in the front row was helping your mom come through, you know? So you might start to notice that. I've done it where there's been like a child that's passed. And then once that child comes through, he brings all the other children in spirit for that gallery reading through. And I will always say, like, oh, they're helping each other because they want to get their word out, or like a mom comes through and then all the moms come through. It's really funny. Spirit always knows, and they will always set you up without you even knowing to be sitting in the right area at the right time, or maybe next to someone that needs to hear that same message. And so I'll also say, if I'm doing a group reading of 200 people, I'll say, if I don't get an opportunity to stand directly in front of you, please know that you are still getting your messages. If it makes sense to you, please take it. During a gallery reading for the sitters, I say it's so important to be selfish. This is your moment, your 2 hours to be extremely selfish. Take it all. You're here for a reason. You're here to connect. You're here to feel the love. So that's what I want you to get out of it.
That is so beautiful, and I love how economical Spirit is. Like, they're so smart, they're so economical, and the way that even when I was part of a mediumship circle, I guess technically I would demonstrate because we would all be on Zoom and we'd read in front of each other, and those double connections are so real, and sometimes it also came out in, like, spirits being economical in a way of sharing everything they have in common on purpose. Like, they might have even been super different from each other in so many ways, but they share the commonalities so that they both can recognize that. And it's so interesting. And then on top of that layer, those commonalities and like what they either went through or struggled with or learned connects to the sitter's life and what they need to hear and is part of the message too. So it's just like boom, boom, boom. So beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the moral of the story of being able to connect or being a medium, learning on how to handle things is don't take things personal. Don't ever take it personal. Make sure your ego is out of the message because it has nothing to do with you, and realize like you are just the messenger. So make sure you have the mindset of having a good bedside manner. I think that's really important because as mediums, sometimes we may get something that is so tragic that we can see in our mind's eye. But we also have to be mindful that the person that's sitting in front of us is a family member or it's a loved one. And bedside manner is important in that respect. I don't know if you agree with me, Taylor, on that. But
100%.
just because we may see certain graphic types of things, we can get the message across without seeing that graphic or portraying the graphic image.
I think it comes back to ego versus service, because when we're really in service to like the beautiful sitter and soul that's trusting us in this space with their beautiful connection and their loved one, we want to protect their psyche. We want to protect their subconscious. We want to handle it delicately. Whereas once we're in ego, it's like, I'm doing an amazing job. I'm getting amazing evidence. I'm getting amazing details. It's like you've forgotten that there's a grieving, vulnerable person sitting right there in a very fragile state. And you're like describing all of these traumatic things in great detail because it's almost so exciting as a developing medium to get those details, but then you're in ego and out of service when you're doing that.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. Exactly. That's exactly what it is we have to remember that this has nothing to do with our ego.
Yeah. I'm curious your perspective, Tiff, about getting readings when someone has just crossed over. Because I know a lot of people have different opinions about this, and I'm curious to know what yours is. Like, some people say, oh, it takes like spirit a while, like new people on the other side to acclimate to the other side. Some people say, wait 3 months to get a reading before someone passes. And just curious what you think about that.
So I will always say, as a rule of thumb, it's always good to wait a few months. And the reason being, can people connect right away? Yes, they can. But it's good to wait a few months as much as we don't want to, because we want that connection. Believe me, when my mom passed, I was like, Mom, are you here? Are you here? Like I wanted to hear it so bad. But we're also moving through our grief. So I feel like if we allow ourselves the momentum to give ourselves a couple months as we move through grief, it will help us to be able to receive the information. And when I say us, I'm not talking about the medium, I'm talking about the sitter. It helps the sitter to receive the information maybe a little bit more clearer than if they were immediately connected right after a passing. I've done it before. I've had people and I tell my assistant, she does my bookings for me and it says it on my website. I always talk very openly about it, but people have gone through where they're like, oh, they just passed last week. And I'm like, oh, because it's so hard. It's so hard because, everybody's on a different grieving pattern, but it really can be difficult.
I completely agree with that. I have the same exact take. I think that it's not, just like you said, it's not about the medium being able to connect. And I don't even think that it takes people in spirit that long to acclimate, in my opinion. I think just what you said, it's about the grief journey of the sitter and how ready they are to have that conversation. And as the medium, some spirit connections feel like a constant, steady stream. And you're just like, yes, yes, yes. And when it's so fresh, to me, it almost feels like talking to someone in a wind tunnel where it's kind of like drip, drop, slow, but that's the pace that the sitter can take the information because it's so fresh. So, yeah, I completely agree. And I think waiting until you're in a moment, and it's okay if you break down after a few months and the grief is still fresh. Like, it's not that there's like this timeline that you're ready to talk to them, but at least giving it a few months will hopefully get you to a place where you'll still be able to co-create with the medium and it won't be so fresh and painful that it's hard to get anything out of the session.
Right.
Oh, so good. And yeah, it's so funny because there are just these certain people along the path that you like connect with right away. And I feel like that kind of happened to us because how rare is it to get a reading from someone and then be like, I want a reading from you, and then connect and then stay connected through the years.
Yes.
That's rare. I don't think it's happened with any other reader that I've gone to. Well, one astrology reader who was a guest on the pod, but overall, like I just feel like that connection's kind of rare and I really value it.
Oh, I love that. I know, me too. I love seeing everything that you have going on. And I loved that we were able to exchange readings, which I want to do it again. I'm going to make it public knowledge.
Yes, absolutely.
We definitely have to trade because there are so many readers out there now. And they are all different styles, all different qualities. And so one thing I learned too is when I first started to develop this, and back in 2008, I became a Reiki master teacher. So I've been doing this for so long, and so long I wanted to find the right community. And I would just kind of attach myself to anybody that had dowsing rods or wanted to connect to spirit. I was like, this is great. And then I kind of learned the hard way with certain people where they weren't on the same vibration. That's like in everyday life too, right? Like with certain friends or people that we meet, you may think like, oh, this person's great. And then you pick up a little bit more where you're like, oh, we're just kind of on a different playing field, you know? So I'm glad we're on the same playing field. I'm glad that we're on the same vibration.
Yes, me too. And it's been so just easy to flow with you through this hour. I could talk to you for so many more hours, and it's just so nice. And I'm sure you feel this too, just as a full time evidential medium, to get to talk to another full time intuitive and evidential medium. And like naturally, we'll vent a little bit, but it's just really validating because it's not every day, at least that I connect to somebody doing this work all the time. So
Same. Exactly. I'm like, hello, anybody? Anybody out there? And I'm so glad that, I was able to be on this podcast, and I'm glad that we were able to kind of get a little black and white with certain things, and it wasn't all just fluff.
I don't do fluff. Magic hour is not fluffy. I'm an eighth house Scorpio sun and an eighth house moon, Mercury, Venus. I cannot do fluff. So thank you for going into the deep, dark abyss with me this week. It was such a pleasure and an honor to connect with you. And I know the hummingbirds are going to love this so much. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
It is time for the biggest holiday sale all year. I only do really one sale per year that's substantial, and it's the winter solstice one. So the time is now. All of my 3-part workshop series are $66 off with the code Hummingbird Holiday. I also have created 2 really special bundles. And if you've been eyeing my Becoming the Oracle mentorship program, I have a bundle that includes the prerequisites for the program, the Be Your Own Angelic Intuitive workshop, as well as the Healing the Witch Wound. And for that one, I've thrown in 3 extra guided meditations, the New Year Manifestation Meditation, Honoring Your Unique Frequency, and the Meet Your Angels meditation. That bundle is $177 off. So do not wait for that. The second bundle is the Be Your Own Angelic Intuitive workshop, as well as Working with Your Angels to Attract a Soulmate Connection workshop. And the meditations included with that one are Healing Karmic Relationship Patterns, Venus Codes, and Cord Cutting with Archangel Michael. So 2 really powerful bundles. If you've been eyeing the workshops, now is the time. The sale will be valid through December 21st, the winter solstice. So do not wait to start your year off with some magic. Support a witchy small business owner, especially if you love the podcast and want to support us. This is a really awesome financial exchange, and it's just a win-win on all levels. It's an eco-friendly gift idea for the witchy people in your life, or you can just gift yourself. So thank you for all of the support of Angels and Amethyst and Magic Hour Pod. You can find everything on angelsandamethyst.com. Now we will head into Sitting with Spirit. Welcome back to Sitting with Spirit, the part of the podcast where I sit with our angels, our guides, our loved ones in the spirit world, give the messages for the collective. As always, take what resonates, leave the rest. And if you know somebody who could use the message, please send it their way. So I just firstly want to start this Sitting with Spirit by saying that I've been hit really hard by an unexpected bout of grief. And I don't know why it's unexpected, honestly, because, losing your mom is really hard for those who aren't familiar. I lost my mom in 2021. This is my 4th holiday season without her. I got through my birthday out practically any grief, and I was riding high from that. And I was like, I'm good. And then Thanksgiving started to come around, and I started making plans for Thanksgiving. And that is when the grief hit me like a ton of bricks. And today I saw a picture of mashed potatoes and started crying, which is funny, but sad also. And it's just, I like to talk about my grief journey on here because I hope that it helps you not feel alone. If it's been 5 years, 10 years, 15, and grief is still slapping you in the face randomly, just know that the holidays are a time of year where family and love and togetherness and all of these things are so highlighted in ways that during other parts of the year, it's easier for us to keep going with life and work and not think about it. And this time of year really puts it in our face so that we almost have no choice but to process deeper layers of it. And I was talking to my therapist, Rachel, about it, and she was like, but isn't that a gift? Isn't the holidays a gift holding up a mirror to deeper layers of our healing so that we can face these things that are harder to avoid at this time of the year? And I think that reframe is really helpful. And also, just feeling grief, it can suck and it can zap your energy, and you can have way less energy to do what you need to do than usual. And if you're going through grief, I think just making a game plan for yourself for the holiday season. I like to travel for that reason during the holidays. I don't like to be home. I like to get away. If you can, having a little more unstructured time in your day, I think it's our instinct to want to stay really, really busy so we don't feel our grief. But I think that can lead to us getting sick and burnt out and autoimmune stuff coming up. And I'm not saying that's the main reason of those things, but I do think it's a big contributing factor. And so just know that if the grief's coming up, you're not alone. plan to support yourself this season, I recommend revisiting episode 201, where I go into a really deep list of what I do for my grief and supporting myself on the grieving journey. And I'm just sending a lot of love to you all. So, the first message that I want to share today is about nervous system work. And we talk about nervous system regulation so much on the podcast. I know last week with Emma, we talk about it a lot. It was coming through to me to say that if you're doing nervous system work correctly, or maybe not even correctly, but efficiently and quickly, there's a level of it sometimes feeling like you're dying. Like when I really said yes to, at the end of last year, changing my whole business plan around so that it wasn't coming from the trauma response of staying super busy, that I never had to feel my grief. And when I truly committed to like nervous system healing and spaciousness and silence and taking care of myself, I got super sick. I felt super anxious. My heart was racing. My body literally felt like I was dying. And the message here is good. That version of self does need to die. And we can feel that way. This message was just coming through in a client session the other day that, like, yeah, when you're really making a change, moving from patterns that are so frenetic and dysregulated and frantic to intentional, spacious, powerful, and regulated, the transition to that regulated space really can be so uncomfortable. And that discomfort is the dying part. It is the Phoenix energy part of the Scorpio energy. Not that we're in Scorpio season, but Scorpio as the archetype of the Phoenix. Like that is the death part. And that is by design. To make clear what I'm saying, like by nervous system regulation, it's coming back to this rootedness of like meeting our own needs, not frantically searching outside, but coming inward and really having like the deep regulated knowing that we're present and we have our back no matter what. And part of that work is like feeling all of your feelings, releasing trauma and stuff in the body. There's so many layers to it. We talk about it so much on the pod. So I'm not going to do like a whole deep dive here. But when you're doing that work, it's extremely uncomfortable. I think we have this image of like a woman on the Himalayas on a yoga mat smiling. And like, no, that is not really it, because the nervous system, I'm not going to say it fights back because that's personifying it in a way that I'm not sure is accurate, but it wants to protect us. So basically, if the nervous system feels like we are unsafe because we're making a new choice that makes sense to our mind, but our body doesn't feel safe to show up that way yet, it gets sick, it feels anxious, it gives all of its signals to try to get us to relate back in the way we used to go back to what isn't working, to be in that dysregulated state. But once you're awake to the dysregulation and you're aware of it, you can never go back. So then you enter this kind of clunky in between time where you're not quite in the new and the regulated, where truly there's like a euphoria in that state when you get there. And you're not in the asleep, dysregulated state anymore. And that is the death period. And trust whatever your body needs, give yourself a lot of time and patience, feel all the feelings coming through, and do know that it's temporary. I really went through it at the end of last year when I made that whole change, like I was saying. And it took a few months to really teach myself that this timing and this pace is sustainable and safe. And the other thing with that, it's kind of akin to when you're always eating junk food and your body's used to it. And then you realize, okay, this junk food isn't nourishing me. It's not sustainable for the long run. It's not healthy for me. I'm going to switch to whole, healthy, natural foods, not processed. And then when you first start eating that way, like your stomach maybe gets upset. You're craving so badly that old stuff, the junk food from before. But eventually you get on board. Your body acclimates to the new healthy regimen. and then trying to go back and eat that junk food again, it doesn't taste the same. It doesn't resonate the same way. It doesn't meet your needs the same way. And it immediately hurts your stomach and hurts your body. And that's just a metaphor for what we're doing through emotional regulation, relating to people and places and situations in a different way. And that is like a clunky process, just like shifting our physical health can be a clunky process. Sometimes we don't think of the emotional as clearly and concretely as we do as the physical. So just wanted to point that out because our angels are making me feel that a lot of people are in between phases, and that a lot of people are feeling like anxious, run down, overwhelmed, and can't go back to their usual ways of meeting their needs, have to sort of be in the discomfort to move through it, to expand into a new way of being that's more regulated and healthy. So the next message that came through was my symbol for home and family. And surprise, surprise, I felt the layered energy. I felt grief tied to family. It felt layered. I felt a little fatigued. And I felt like sometimes this time of year, we can get so sucked into family stuff, unhealthy family dynamics, old family triggers, all of these things with family, family, family. And the message that I got, like the way it came in was this feeling of my head almost being in a fishbowl and that fishbowl being family. And the feeling that I got is like, take space, take a break, get a breather in, step back, clear your head, come back to your own energy. Don't match the energy of the family that's like overwhelming you or triggering you. Take space, create boundaries, take a breather to come back to your own energy and try to stay in that rooted place as much as possible. And then as I was getting this message, horse came through as an animal guide, which is really exciting because I know 2026 is the year of the horse, and that's my year that I was born in. So I love that. But horse as an animal guide, when it comes through to me, is about loosening the reins of control, letting things take its course, letting yourself be supported and led, and not holding on too tightly. And also just moving forward in the most surrendered way that you can while taking space and boundaries and checking back in with like, whew, I just need to touch grass for a second because I just got swept back into layers of family dynamics that I don't really want to be swept into. And this is really a time, like I was saying, where, everything comes up. But isn't it interesting that this is the darkest point in the wheel of the year? And it's where, like, for so many, the most triggers and family stuff and all of the shadows come up. I think there's no accident with that. It's like the celebration and the joy, the gratitude and the love. And on the flip side, the family stuff has been highlighted like never before at this time. And so just hold space for it all and allow the shadows to come up and know it's a natural part of this darkest part of the wheel of the year. And so the next message that I got was that for so many people, we're in a real check-in point with ourselves. I see this sort of crossroads in between transitionary moment. And I kept getting this feeling of a lot of us in this community feeling like we're hitting the same wall over and over again. Like, I'm doing all of the things, I'm taking care of myself. Like, all I want is to go past this wall and have this manifestation come in, get to happily ever after, achieve some sort of goal, reach a new level. And it feels like consistently ramping ourselves up and hitting the same wall and then repeating the process and not getting to where we have been so desperately and frantically trying to go. And it doesn't even have to be desperate and frantic. For some it is. And for others, it's just this frustration of, dude, doing everything I should be doing. And I'm frustrated and I'm not moving forward the way I want to move forward. The feeling that I got was like, instead of trying to smash through the wall, listening to what the wall is telling you and taking a pause and seeing how you can direct your focus and your energy back to yourself in some way. I think sometimes we can get so attached to, if I don't attract XYZ thing, if I don't manifest XYZ thing, if I don't have this experience, if I don't reach this level, then I will never XYZ, have my needs met, feel happy, feel loved, feel safe, like whatever those things are. And I know that there, of course, is like this natural impulse to want things from life. Like that's just a normal part of humanity. But I think when we get into these cycles of just trying the same energetic strategies and trying to get the same thing over and over and feeling constantly disappointed and frustrated, hitting the wall is an invitation to pause and go deeper within ourselves. And I really recommend listening to my Moving Through Blocked and Stagnancy episodes, which is 233 and 238 are the two parts on that. And part of the message there is sometimes when we're feeling blocked and stuck and stagnant, it's that there's a deeper truth within us that we're avoiding. And if we got the manifestation, we would never look at that truth or do that soul growth or heal whatever that is. And then sometimes life is just out of our control and we don't get everything we want. But again, that's by design in some way. And where is that wanting of it tied to control more than meeting yourself in the present moment with exactly where you're at and doing the best with what's in your control and releasing the rest and trusting that what will come and what you are co-creating with the universe is what you're meant to when you're listening to your heart. And so as this message was coming up, and to be a little redundant, because I know this image has come through in Sitting with Spirit before, I saw a witch on her broomstick hitting a wall. And it made me laugh a little bit because I know I've seen a witch on her broomstick and I feel like she was even hitting a wall before. So this might tie back to whatever Sitting with Spirit week that was for you. But there's something here that they're really highlighting the mouth and the throat area. And it's like in this moment, just be so real with yourself, like radical honesty. What is frustrating you? Where are you disappointed? Where are you focusing on one or two outcomes that you're putting everything into but feel frustrated with? Where are you feeling resentful, entitled, or bitter? Just really being honest with yourself about that and taking stock of it. And then I see your angels being like, okay, if you keep hitting the same wall over here, start to just explore what it would be like to look over there or in a different direction or peer out the window right next to the door or look at the staircase right next to the rail. It's like there's other parts that are inviting you to co-create and move in new directions and expand in new directions. And if you keep getting no's from the universe or closed doors or clunkiness, sometimes that can feel so frustrating that we just try and try and try, and then we judge ourselves and we don't feel worthy, and then we create stories around it that aren't true. It's when sometimes we just need a clean, energetic break from trying for that thing or going in that direction or pushing there. And we need to fill up our cup in another area and integrate the messages and the lessons from this chapter and revisit that when it feels inspired or ready or like there's momentum there or like things have shifted. And that's what I really feel right now is like we might be redirected. Our attention, our effort, and our energetic strategies might be asking us to go in different ways, especially if we feel like, and I know I keep saying this, like we keep hitting a wall. So, new effort for new results, new directions for new petals of your flower blossoming and going with that momentum and being super, super honest with yourself with that. And that really is, and I have here, having your own back through this real check in point and not continuing to do things that make you feel bitter or resentful or burnt out. And as I was tuning into the energy of the week, of course, it feels really layered with like the family stuff and a little frustration with timing or feeling like we're hitting a wall in some way. The other flip side of it is I feel a lot of potential for up level in this moment as well. And then as I was tuning into that current of the energy, started to feel really excited. And I felt like that energy right now is heightened. There's a lot of potential for magic and momentum. And I feel this especially with career. And when I felt in and pulled the card, I pulled the Three of Pentacles. And that's the card of talent, enterprise, success, and teaching. And I feel like there's career and money upgrades. I feel like turning our skills into professions in some way, following our curiosity, pushing out of our comfort zone. All of that stuff feels really supported and really exciting. And I feel like a big part of this is more confidence in what we have to offer, more confidence in how we see ourselves, how we talk about our gifts, how we show up, finding new ways to teach, to push your entrepreneurship or expand. Like, I just feel potential for following your curiosity, trusting your gifts, trusting your skill sets, and expanding that in a new way and following the momentum. So I feel like that's where the energy really wants to go right now, is more of that money and career growth. And it might not be as obvious as like starting a new business, but it might even be starting to follow a thread of curiosity or take a class or put something on Etsy, like just doing these little steps that then lead to that as well. So, going into the mediumship this week, I did feel like this was somebody that would be connected to this community or someone listening to the podcast. So, sometimes it's just like people in spirit that just want to get a message in that might not be necessarily connected, and they give me less evidence about who they were. Whereas this week, I really feel like it's someone connected to the community. Felt a mother in spirit coming up, and I saw a D name with her, and I heard Donna. So it could either be Donna or a D name. She made me feel like she passed pretty young, like in her 40s or 50s, I would say middle age. She was a nurse, and I felt like she had heart problems and thyroid stuff. She also really wanted me to say that she had really nice handwriting. And I feel like she would have written like really pretty cards or something like that. She felt like such a warm and devoted and loving mom to her kids. And I definitely felt like there was 3 kids with her. And the feeling that I got was that when it came to her kids, like that was her comfort zone. But when it came to expressing her needs, her wants, her pain, her truth, she felt very quiet and reserved to me. And like she was basically a closed book. Like she just would not go there when it came to her own stuff. And it gave me this feeling that in some ways, especially once her kids were out of the house, there's this feeling of like quiet quitting on herself, on her marriage. And it feels like, in particular, her marriage, that it was just almost like a roommate type of situation at the end where they were coexisting, but that didn't feel really like there was affection or connection. It just felt like living together, and the kids kept them together. Felt like she didn't take care of her health or her appearance or go after anything she really loved. It felt like she was just existing and so disconnected from herself. When I continued to tune into this, I felt like she had deeper pain that she didn't want to process. And so she numbed and she avoided and she focused on everyone else but her. And it kept her away from her most joyful, embodied soul expression. And her message is, feel it now. Do not wait to feel the pain, to process the pain. Don't store it away. Feel it now so that it doesn't pull the puppet strings of your time here in a physical body on earth, because you will have time to process it and heal it and do these things in the spirit world where you're really aware of like the lessons and what happened in the soul growth. And while you're here, like, don't let those lessons or those healing things or what you've experienced be the whole story of what holds you back or pulls your puppet strings. It's a big focus in the spirit world. It can be a big focus here, but not in a way that allows us to quiet quit on ourselves or not face deeper things or stay in uncomfortable comfort zones or numb out to avoid feeling it. Because when we do that, we really miss the gift of being here in a physical body, and we're kind of half in, half out of the full human experience, and we're kind of just numbing and existing. And what she's saying is like, there's enough time in the spirit world for existing and soul lessons and like letting these things be focuses of where we're growing. And while we're here, we're also meant to just make the most of exploring our hobbies, living in a physical body, exploring what makes us authentically joyful, showing up in a more powerful way. And all of those things are not possible when we avoid feeling those deeper feelings. And she really is encouraging. I feel like she had 2 daughters and 1 son. I feel like she's really encouraging you guys and everyone, as her message is like, come back to feeling those things because they have more power over you when you run from them for your entire life instead of facing them directly, moving forward in a more powerful way, even if, it takes a lot of time. That's okay. But when you face it and move forward, then you can really enjoy life in a way. And then you still have more time for the healing in the spirit world and making those like lessons the whole focus. Not that that's our whole experience in the spirit world, but we're very aware of it in the spirit world. So that's her message is don't quiet quit on yourself. Really have the courage and the bravery. And what she's saying too is like, you might think it's an act of love to ignore your own needs and just take care of the people that you love, but it's actually not, because to her it led to health issues and she didn't take care of herself and she passed a lot younger than she would have. And it also was hard because she wasn't modeling speaking up for herself or voicing her needs to her kids. And us being in that full healed vibration to the best of our ability, that is really where we exemplify love, live from love, have a full cup to pour from for the people we love. And that really is like love attracts more love in that way. So I'm sending you all so much love. With that being said, this beautiful mother in the spirit world had such a beautiful message. And she also, I heard the name Mimi. So I felt like she might be a grandma as well, or Mimi just might be connected to her in some way. So I'm sending you all so much love. Don't quiet quit on yourself. Be radically honest. Pivot where you need to pivot. Admit something isn't working when it's not. Put your attention in new areas. This is a really important check-in point. We're in the dark part of the wheel of the year. So embrace whatever is coming up, layered energy and all, and have a beautiful rest of your week. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Magic Hour podcast. We are so happy you're here. I absolutely love to connect with you all on Instagram at angels_and_amethyst. I love to get your thoughts on each episode, and I get so excited to get your emails to contact@magichourpod.com. Make sure you're subscribing to Magic Hour so you never miss a new episode in your inbox. We have so many amazing guests right around the corner as always. Please make sure to send your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to contact@magichourpod.com, and we'll enter you into an angel reading giveaway with me, which is just my favorite thing to get to connect with the Hummingbird community in that way. You get a bonus entry if you also send a screenshot of your YouTube subscription and also a screenshot of sharing us on your story and tagging us at Magic Hour Podcast on Instagram. The next giveaway will happen when we hit 288 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We so appreciate you sharing the podcast with other magical people, and it really helps us keep this project alive. To learn more about me, my work, to book a reading with me, to take a workshop, please visit angelsandamethyst.com. And remember, you are magic.